I'm excited to be here. I'm making a favorite of my husband's and my kids, and I'm just going to keep going. All right, here we go. So I'm making a crawfish pasta, a creamy crawfish pasta. So it's there's a lot of recipes floating around out there for a dish called Crawfish Monica, and it's a dish that is wildly popular at, hey Mary, yay, wildly popular at Jazz Fest. And Jazz Fest would have been in about, I think, 2 weeks from now. It's our, big, beautiful music festival in New Orleans, and it's been postponed to the fall. I used to go to music festivals way back before kids and all of that. And every year I want to go to Jazz Fest, but I just want to go and eat and leave. Because the food there is so very good. So we are making a dish that's wildly popular at Jazz Fest, but it is not their recipe. It is not actually Crawfish Monica. Because their recipe is a secret, and you can only get true Crawfish Monica at Jazz Fest. So I am doing a recipe that Emerald did, and with a few variations on it, but we're going to get ourselves to a creamy crawfish pasta. So here's what's been happening so far. I've got in this pan onion, butter, and olive oil. 6 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and I did a combination of onion, shallot, and the white part of the green onion, because I'm going to use the green onions as a garnish later. So I've got that combination in there. So you just want a good cup of onion in there, chopped pretty fine, and that's sauteing, and it's lightly brown, but for the most part it's been sweating, which means that it's getting soft, it's getting translucent, and we're not looking for a ton of color on this. So what I'm going to do now to this mixture, I am going to add my spices and my garlic. So I've got 4 cloves of garlic going in. My friend Jada Cody once said the amount of garlic for your recipe is however many you're feeding. 1 clove per person. And I've always loved that saying. And I wish it was my joke, but it's his. But I'm still going to use it. Okay, so I've got my garlic going in. So nothing bad ever happened in the world when butter, onions, and garlic sauteed. I just have to believe that only good things happen. That smells like magic. I'm going to go in with a good half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to hold back on my salt right now for a couple of reasons. I can salt at the end, but I heavily salted my pasta water. When I salt pasta water, it tastes like the Gulf of Mexico. Like, I really salt the pasta water. And then I'm going to go in with a Cajun Creole seafood blend. So we have several in the shop. The one I'm using today is Chac Bay. Chac Bay, for those who don't know, but you should, is right outside of Thibodaux. And it is the home to the legendary Emmy Elliott, who used to work for me, who is a pretty fantastic person, and they broke the mold after they made Emmy. There's no one else like it. 2 teaspoons of a Cajun Creole blend. So you can use whatever you have in your pantry. We have another blend called Mo Betta, which would be so good in here. Bayou Seafood would be good in here, if you have any of those from my shop. But Chac Bay is kind of my answer. I blended it, and it's kind of my answer to Old Bay. Get it? Chac Bay, Old Bay. Kind of my answer to Old Bay, and so it doesn't have a ton of heat in it, and you can totally use Old Bay if it's in your cabinet. Just add a little bit of heat. So I'm going in with, that's just 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne. Again, we can play with all of that at the end. So this is looking beautiful, and I want to show you what it looks like. It is bright red from the paprika in the spice blend, and it's really, let's see, how's that? Yay, I'm doing that. Really softened up, really kind of pasty almost. And now what we want to do is, I'm going to turn off my heat just because this scares me a little bit. Although it would make for great Facebook Live if this went up into flames. But I'm about to add alcohol. So I'm going to add white wine, and if you don't do wine, then you just double your lemon juice. So I'm doing half of a lemon. Just do a whole lemon if you don't do wine. And so this is another place where magic happens when you cook. When you take alcohol and add it to fat and alliums, onions and garlic, and then allow it to reduce, you reduce out the liquid. You cook away most all of the alcohol. You reduce out the liquid. I'm going to crank it up because I really want this to kind of go back to where it was, the consistency where it was. I want it to go back there and really evaporate out a lot or most all of that liquid. And what it leaves behind are the sugars in the onions, and it's just magic in a dish. This is what happens in a scampi. This is what happens in a lot of tomato sauces when they add a red wine to the onions and bell pepper and all the aromatics that you cooked. So I'm letting this bubble away, and it's smelling wonderful. My favorite word, magic. It smells wonderful. And it's pretty much all cooked away. I'm back to that consistency where I can pull through with let me try this again. So I can pull through and it'll leave a trail, so it's gotten pretty dry. So I want to cook all of that away, and then we're going to come back with more liquid. So all of that's cooked away, and now we're going to come in with our cream, and we're going to let that bubble a little bit, and then we add our crawfish to that. So in I go with my heavy cream. I'm not concerned about the bubble there. That's your insurance with heavy cream in terms of it curdling. You can go ahead and add it to a boiling liquid. My sister-in-law made this. Now I hadn't decided my recipe yet when we were texting Monday, and she was like, I've cooked all the things. I've cooked everything they eat, and what can I cook? And I was like, well, I'm making Crawfish Monica on Thursday, and if they like creamy pasta and you have crawfish, she's like, I got crawfish tails in the freezer. And so she made it, and the recipe I had sent her at that time called for either heavy cream or half and half, and she only had half and half. She said it was really good. The only thing, it was a little thin. So half and half is half cream, half milk. Now you can totally get there with this dish with half and half. What I would either just accept the consistency, and it's going to be delicious, or at that point, right before I added this cream, I would do a good heaping couple of teaspoons of flour and mix it into that onion mixture and let it get pasty and cook it to a point where you smell like sort of nuttiness. And then what you have done is essentially, because there's fat in your pan and there's flour, you've essentially made a roux. And then that will tighten up your half and half if you're finding that the half and half is too thin. We're not going to have that problem with heavy cream. The other thing that, and I'm not sure she may have done this, but the other thing that can be done is to make sure that you reserve some of the pasta water. The pasta water has tons of starch in it, and it helps tighten things up as well. As a matter of fact, I make a Alfredo-like pasta for my family. I make it a lot. They really love it. And sometimes I'll get it going a little bit too early, and we'll get to talking and the other food isn't ready. And I found that my tendency was to keep adding cream to it, and that wasn't the answer. What you want to do is make sure you have reserved pasta water to add to it, because that will help you work with the consistency without continually adding all that more fat and more dairy to it. All right, that is bubbling away. And it looks beautiful and it smells beautiful. And so I'm going to turn it down, and I'm going to add my crawfish tails. So let's talk about crawfish for a minute. So it's crawfish season in Louisiana. We're actually having a really, really lovely season. They're abundant, they're big, and they're inexpensive, although inexpensive always isn't the greatest thing for the fishermen. But they're definitely out there, and if you can find them in a way that you can still socially distance and pick them up, It certainly is a tradition for Easter weekend for lots of folks to have crawfish boil. So this would be, leftover crawfish tails. People make the joke, what are leftover crawfish tails? I've never heard of that before, but we have them a lot here. And so you need a pound of them to make this. So this would be a great thing to make for Good Friday tomorrow or over the weekend. All right, in go my crawfish tails. And I can already see that it's getting pretty thick, and I'm gonna probably lean on that pasta water here in just a minute. So I'm gonna let these heat through. Your crawfish tails are cooked. So crawfish tails, whether you buy them frozen in the bag or of course from your boil, they're cooked. So you're not cooking them, you're only heating them through. And make sure if you're using them from your boil, you do want to leave some of that fat attached. That's like the magical flavor of the crawfish. So I've got the crawfish in there and I want to heat them through, and I want to talk to you guys about crawfish because this is important in Louisiana. We want to make sure that you've got a certified Louisiana product. Let's see if I can do this. Certified Louisiana product. I see that they're from Brobridge, which is awesome, but I want to see that seal of a certified Louisiana product. They have a permit number, and then just come on the back and make sure that you see product of USA, again, knowing that Louisiana is here in the United States. And you can then see whether they farm raised them, wild caught them, or these are a combo of farm raised and wild caught. But a lot of those crawfish farmers are utilizing fields and farming crawfish, which is a wonderful thing. So just make sure you're grabbing Louisiana seafood. It is really, really important to our fishermen here in Louisiana. All right, what do I do next? So I was going to grate the Parmesan in front of you all, and I'm glad I didn't because it took forever and that would have been super boring. But this is, our crawfish are heated through, and then we're going to start folding in our pasta. Okay, so we also want to go ahead and get our green onions and parsley in. It's a generous amount, a half a cup of each. So we're going to get those in. Let's see if this helps anything for me to get it a little closer for you guys. So we've got our green onions and parsley in, and that is absolutely gorgeous. And then we're going to start bringing our pasta in. So what I've done is I've made fettuccine. At Jazz Fest, it's rotini, the little spiral pasta, because that's easier. You've got a styrofoam bowl and disposable fork, and it's just easier to spear with the rotini. And maybe that's part of their magic. I don't know. We still should all go to Jazz Fest. I'm not going to Jazz Fest, y'all. I don't do mud or heat, or I only sweat when I plan to sweat, like exercising. I don't so much like dirt between my toes. But I would go to Jazz Fest and eat and then leave. But maybe that's part of their magic, is the rotini pasta. Anyway, I think any pasta would work. I chose fettuccine. It's what I had in my pantry. And I boiled the fettuccine to al dente, which means to the tooth. It's got a little bit of bite in it. And I did not rinse it. I wanted to leave the starches attached. So I moved it with my spider, with this little guy here. Look at my spider. All right, I moved it with my spider to a sheet pan and let it spread it out to let it cool, hit it with oil, and then drained off my pasta water so that I have it available. And it's hot, so hot pasta water. My pasta just came out, so the pasta's hot as well. And we're gonna bring this in, and remember there's starches attached still to this pasta. And so I don't wanna do a lot of crazy stirring because I don't wanna make it gummy. So I'm gonna get pasta in, and I may not use all of this pasta, but I'm gonna get this pasta in, and then I wanna lift and turn and get it all coated around that way. Let's see if that helps. So we want to lift it up and move it around and get all of that coated on there. And I'm going to bump my heat up because I want to get some bubbles, and I want that starch to do its job. I want it to start tightening up this sauce. Although this looks pretty amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. And so what Emerald does is he goes in with half of his cheese, and then he uses the other half to garnish. So I'm going to go ahead and do half the parm now, and then we're going to get the rest of this pasta, most all of this pasta in. Let's see. Y'all, that's amazing. And that feeds a crowd for sure. That's beautiful. So that is definitely dinner party worthy, although don't have one quite yet. What? And don't spray it on you like I do. But that is just beautiful. I mean, if company was coming, they will eventually. I would serve them this. Okay, that's gorgeous. I want that to heat through, and then parm on top. And then I want to get a couple of bubbles, and then I'm going to serve it up and taste. So that came together really quickly. Have that pasta ready to go. Be sure to reserve that pasta water, defrost those crawfish tails from the freezer, and then we are all set. All right, let's see how I did. It's pretty amazing. Nice loaf of French bread and a salad, of course, because you know you bought salad greens and they're in the fridge. All right, let's see how I did. Here I am with my bad manners every day at 4:30 with you guys. All right, I'm just gonna go for it, y'all. Oh my gosh, so good. Ooh, it's got a little bit of kick to it. I can definitely taste that cayenne. So delicious. I love the Parmesan in there. It's the perfect consistency. Let me get another bite with crawfish tails. Perfect. Crawfish fettuccine, that's a whole lot like Crawfish Monica, but not exactly. We still want to go to Jazz Fest and get in line for their Crawfish Monica, but absolutely delicious. Make some with those crawfish tails you have left over this weekend. Thanks, guys. This was fun. I'll be back next Tuesday, and I am on Instagram Live a few times a week talking about tea. So catch us on Instagram as well, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.